And you were just having a little insurance to have Sonny in your corner?
Sure, Lance, when you got somebody sitting in your corner, it gives you a little confidence at any time. But when somebody else, you know, when there's a guy sitting in the opposition's corner, then I think it's only fair to have somebody in yours.
Well, there was a big discussion in terms of whether the legitimacy of Jimmy. It was determined that he did have a license.
Quit the film, all right? We can just,
yeah. Okay. Well, there was Jimmy.
Right. Now, when Jerry Lawler and I was on better terms than we are right now, Jimmy Hart was always there. You know, I don't know, this is a man's business, and it's for men. It's not for the likes of Jimmy Hart. Now, I don't know what he is to Lawler, whether he's his friend, his valet, or his sweetie pie. I don't know what Jimmy Hart is, but I know this much. Remember Jerry made a record and it was just for fun to sell around the wrestling matches?
Yeah.
Jimmy Hart was the guy that said, Lawler, take it on the road. You're great, Lawler. You're the greatest thing that ever walked. You can wrestle better than anybody. You can sing better than anybody. Lawler, you're the greatest man. Hart went around town telling everybody, Jerry Lawler is the greatest. He even wrote the song, Jerry Lawler is the King. Did you know Hart wrote that? He sat up nights writing that thing about Lawler. The man's in love with Jerry Lawler. Hart, let me tell you something. This is a man's business, and it's for men. Now, I got a man standing right here. Pat, his name's Pat Hutchison. Yeah, he's a man. Yeah, Pat Hutchison. He comes down here every Saturday morning. He gets his brains beat out, but he comes here every Saturday. And that takes a man to do that. Now, Pat, have you ever won a professional wrestling match in your life?
No, that's
No,
it.
he has never won a professional wrestling match in his life because he's wrestling men. Jimmy Hart, I got a proposition for you. I got $5,000, Lance Russell, for Jimmy Hart to wrestle my man,
What?
Pat Hutchison. Yeah. This is not for the likes of Jimmy Hart. He shouldn't even be in the wrestling business. If he'll step into the ring with Pat Hutchison, I'll put up the prize money, $5,000.
If he can beat
If he can beat Pat Hutchison, he'll get $5,000 of my money. Now, there's two reasons why he's not going to accept. The first is, and my money's going to be safe. The first reason is Jimmy Hart is not a man, and the second reason is he can't beat Pat Hutchison, and Lawler won't let him accept.
Well, it's kind of a unorthodox thing, Bill. I know Jimmy Hart has rooted for
We won't
you
drag
in the
this thing out,
past,
Lord.
and-
That's right. That's how I feel about Jimmy Hart. You just get him out here and see your wrestling man. Let's go, Pat.
Okay. Well, that week, odd championship wrestling. Bill Dundee just threw it out in here. He was irritated, I know, at Jimmy's presence. As we said, Jimmy, we've known for quite some time, successful musician. He's been a longtime friend of Jerry's, and he did end up at ringside at that match, and as a matter of fact, he was more than just vocal in his assistance. Bill Dundee has put down the challenge that if Hart will get in and wrestle Pat Hutchinson and he can beat Hutchinson, here's the King and Jimmy Hart. If he can beat Hutchinson, he wins Dundee's $5,000. That's how confident he is.
Lance, why don't you go home? Your cage is probably cleaned out by now. Don't you realize that?
Okay.
Did I hear right?
Do you accept?
Do I accept? And does Jimmy accept? Of course we'll accept. That is the biggest joke that I have ever heard. Let me tell you, first of all, it's true, Jimmy Hart is not a wrestler. But I can teach, being the greatest wrestler in the world, I can teach Jimmy Hart enough in 5 minutes to not only beat Pat Hutchison, but probably beat Bill Dundee also. So we will accept, because we like taking money from a little sawed-off runt like Bill Dundee. Let me tell you something, Dundee. You little punk. Do you realize, I know him like a book, man. Hanging around that scum for 2 years, I can read him. I know what he's going to say before it even comes into that little pea brain of his. He stood out here. You know what? You know what his whole purpose in doing this was? He didn't think we'd accept. He never thought Jimmy Hart would accept. All he's trying to do is show you rednecks out there that he's got $5,000 now. He won the Southern Heavyweight Championship, and he's had it for about 3 weeks, and he's gone out for the first time in his life and earned himself $5,000, so he wants to let everybody know it. That's what kind of guy he is. Let me tell you something. He used to talk about riding and driving me and letting me sleep in the back of my Lincoln Continental. You know what he'd do? He'd come over to my house and he'd say, "Let me drive us to the town, Jerry." And I'd say, "Okay," and I'd get in. He'd say, "Why don't you get in the back and go to sleep, take a little nap?" I'd say, "Okay," and boy, he couldn't wait till I laid down where the people couldn't see me. He'd put on them little Elvis Presley glasses of his, and he'd crank that seat up as high as it could go where he could just see out over the dashboard, and he'd drive around, make everybody think that was his Lincoln Continental. Let me tell you something, Dundee. I know you, boy. You're trying to be a big shot with $5,000, but it's going to backfire right in that little punk face of yours. We're going to be down there this week, and I'm going to have him ready, and I'm going to have him primed. Look at this man right here. I'm going to have him primed, Dundee, and we're going to take that $5,000 of yours, boy, because you've done made some bad insinuations about me and a personal friend of mine. If there's anybody that's any a little bit funny around here, it's you, Dundee, putting on those little funny-looking capes and those big bug-eye glasses and trying to impress all the little girls. Well, your days are over, buddy. You're going to be broke. You're going to be so broke you can't pay attention because we're going to be down there and we're going to take his money. You write it down,
to
baby.
Put his hide in the ring, yeah.
He's willing, too. Don't think he ain't afraid,
Jimmy,
baby.
you better reconsider on this.
With a king there, I'll be there, baby.
That's right.
Okay, listen, we've got some more action coming up for you in just a moment. Lawler Dundee, boy, what kind of action there was and a half in there. We want to flash you back to the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's take a look at Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee. What a scrap. He nailed Dundee. He got him with the top of his foot, though. And the only difference that would make would be that it happened to be legal.